Issa schoolboy football is back. The storm has passed, but the spirit remains. This time it's bigger than football. CVM TV brings you a doubleheader from Waterhouse Mini Stadium. This Friday, November 28, the round of 16 continues with match day 2. In the opening encounter, Woolmer's Boys and Tivoli Gardens face off in a must-win for both teams. Kickoff is at 2 p.m. and Stats and Excelsior clash for a spot at the top of the group in the feature match at 4:15 p.m. Coverage is live and exclusive on CVM TV, CVM Television Jamaica on YouTube, and CVMTV.com. That's the return of the Issa Manning Cup, Friday, November 28. A doubleheader at Waterhouse Mini Stadium. Tivoli Gardens versus Woolmer's Boys at 2 p.m. and Stats versus Excelsior at 4:15 p.m.
Need to estimate your duty? Perform a track and trace? Search for a declaration?
Then download the Jamaica Customs mobile app today. The time by the Jamaica Customs Agency is
12 p.m.
Thanks for joining us for CVM News at noon. It's Tuesday, November 25, 2025. I'm Amoy Harriet. Up first this afternoon, opposition spokesman on health, Dr. Alfred Dawes, is raising concerns about garbage collection across the island amid the current outbreak of leptospirosis. Dr. Dawes says public education is not enough and more needs to be done to remove garbage pileup.
We ought to focus not only on trying to send out information to say avoid streams and water, avoid rodents, but we ought to look at how we can address the environmental factors that are causing this outbreak. Garbage collection is an issue. It is piling up not just out west, but across the island. Even in my constituency, that was largely spared from the brunt of the hurricane. Water is an issue. We heard from the MPs that water is rising. In some areas, there is a stench of dead animals, and you cannot simply say to people, avoid contaminated water, when that is the only water that they have available. So we have to look at the cleanup, we have to look at the access. And it is this multimodal approach that we're going to have in tandem with the work of the Ministry of Health that is going to stave off a worsening of the leptospirosis outbreak.
Speaking at a press conference held by the opposition this morning, Dr. Dawes also questioned the ability of the Ministry of Health to test for leptospirosis. Now, the Member of Parliament for Eastern Westmoreland and the General Secretary of the People's National Party, Dr. Dayton Campbell, is criticizing the government for its response to efforts to date following Hurricane Melissa. Dr. Campbell, during a press briefing earlier today, said his constituency is still in need of urgent intervention, saved only by the assistance of non-governmental organizations.
The response has been inadequate, delayed, and sometimes even inappropriate in my mind. And I say this because one would expect that coming out of a hurricane of this magnitude, that having made landfall in the constituency, that would have seen mobilization of government ministries, departments, and agencies to that area and intervention being made to deal with the issues confronting the people. I want to thank, though, members of the private sector, the private companies, private individuals, non-governmental organizations, including GEM Foundation, Samaritan's Purse, World Central Kitchen, Mercy Chefs. Had it not been for some of these groups, I don't know what would have happened to the residents of Eastern Westmoreland. I'm told that it was said in the Senate on Friday that tents went to Dayton Campbell, unless there is another Dayton Campbell that represents somewhere in Jamaica. It's certainly not this one. I have not been made aware of any tents. And I want to be on record as saying, I will never support moving out the persons out of the shelter unless we make provision for them. I will block it myself personally. That is inhumane, and we have to do better. So yes, we want the schools to open, but we must make adequate provision before we move the persons out of the shelters.
Meanwhile, with approximately 500 houses totally destroyed and numerous other buildings severely affected in that area deemed ground zero, the Member of Parliament has placed on record what he describes as a bipartisan approach. Dr. Campbell points to the situation with the most vulnerable who still remain in shelters for reasons out of their control, like the emergency provisions which have been extended to these individuals about which he has no knowledge. Now, stakeholders in the education sector are this morning welcoming the announcement that Jamaican students will now sit the Caribbean Examinations Council CXC exams at a later date with reduced fees. Education Minister Dr. Dana Morris-Dixon has indicated that students who were scheduled to sit the exams in the January and May to June 2026 sessions will now do so later than other territories due to the impact of Hurricane Melissa. She also confirmed that the exam fees for students will be reduced. Now, Vice President of the Jamaica Association of Principals of Secondary Schools, Aniona Jones, while welcoming the move, emphasized the importance of ensuring that the integrity of the exams is not compromised.
$41,000 is roughly what I spent on my own son who is in the 11th grade to sit some of his exams. I can't imagine asking someone right now to find 20. So the idea of a reduced cost is really good, and I applaud that move. We have unfortunately had some challenges with securing the papers, and we've done so much better as a country. But I hope that we are able to not reduce the integrity of the exams while we try to accommodate the students, because that too will have an issue when the grades come out. So it's a multifaceted approach that we're having, but we're keeping the children at the center.
Meanwhile, principal of the Old Harbour High School, Linton Ware, is calling for consideration to be given to adjusting the exam structure to better reflect students' overall performance.
So where my examination coordinator, with her communicating with other examination coordinators, and there are other examination coordinators who are putting their voices forward. And what they're simply saying too is that while it is that we're trying to formulate solution, it would be good if in the communication too, similarly to COVID, we probably look at their SBA as well. Because in terms of pushing back the exam, it means that there's another paper that will have to be set. And examination coordinators are saying, similar to COVID, let's see if we could facilitate the assessment of their SBA and provide them with a final score.
Let's go now to more coming out of that press conference held by the opposition this morning. Member of Parliament for Eastern Hanover, Andrea Perkis, is raising concerns that the parish has been left out of critical relief efforts following Hurricane Melissa, adding that irregular garbage collection by the National Solid Waste Management Authority is now raising fears of waterborne diseases.
Whether the design is by oversight or the Ministry of Health has omitted the parish of Hanover from its island-wide fogging schedule, I don't know. But believe it or not, Hanover as a parish, we have areas where the water continues to rise. The water has a stench. And up to date, I have not been contacted by anyone from the Ministry of Health to say we are going into these areas to check, to run some tests, to check on the citizens. We have a number of senior citizens in Chigwell, in Forest. These senior citizens have had to travel by means of foot track to get to hospitals.
Time now for a break, but stay with us. More when we return.
The Carpet Carpet Store. We bring comfort to every step with flooring that blends softness and style. From carpets and rugs to durable vinyl flooring and expert installation services, we have everything you need to transform your space. And when it's time for a refresh, our carpet and upholstery cleaning service brings your flooring back to life. Visit us at 18 Dunbarton Avenue, Kingston. The Carpet Store, because you deserve the best.
Tired of the high interest rates and the whole heap of loan payments every month? Take a debt consolidation loan from AIM to pay credit card bills and all other high interest rate loans from other institutions. Make one low monthly payment to AIM and take home some extra money in your pocket. That's financial freedom. One loan, one low payment, more money in your pocket. Call AIM today to lower your loan payment. And remember, you won't find a better deal elsewhere. Guaranteed.
So when I wake up in the morning, I say a word of prayer. Tap, 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 tap. Yo, this is yours truly, D Major, and I'm representing for CVM. See it happen. You hear that? CVM what? See it happen. Listen, keep it locked.
Welcome back to CVM News at Noon. Now, last week, staff at the Bahia Principe Hotel staged a protest over the hotel management's decision to their decision to make employees redundant following Hurricane Melissa. Now, there are some works ongoing at the hotel, and the hotel staff, the hotel management rather, made this decision which would inevitably affect staff members. Now, there was a meeting yesterday with members of the Labour Ministry, and we're joined now by Senator Cavan Gale, who is president of the Bustamante Industrial Trade Union, to find out more about what's happening over there at Bahia Principe. Welcome, Senator Gale.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
No,
and good afternoon to your viewers and listeners.
Can you confirm what percentage of the hotel staff has been unionized?
So by the Grand Bahia Principe, almost 60% of the staff are unionized. By luxury, you would have had employees who are on fixed-term contracts, a varying degree of fixed-term contracts, 6 months to a year. Those are not unionized.
So, Senator, based on the outcome of yesterday's meeting, can you say if you believe the ministry are merely mediators, or should it take a stronger stance in protecting jobs in the tourism industry?
Well, I think we have to look at the precarious nature of employment in the tourism industry. Recall sometime in 2024, you would have had a series of protest actions by hotel workers. And those protest actions would have led to concerns being raised about the nature of employment, the uncertainty, the insecurity in terms of hotel workers. The Confederation of Trade Unions and many other unions would have joined the call for having a joint industrial council for tourism workers, a group, an amalgamation of both employers and trade unions and the Ministry of Labour to set up a kind of consortium as to how to protect those tourism workers. In light of the present situation at Bahia Principe, I want to bring historical context to what would now emanate into the intended redundancies. From as far back as March of this year, we would have been hearing rumors about intended changes at the Bahia Principe. We would have written to the management, would have had meetings, raised concerns, and there seems to have been an insistence not to indicate anything to us until a letter was sent to us on October 3rd suggesting changes in operations.
What kind of changes, Senator?
Proposed changes in terms of redundancies, that they intend to close the grand where the unionized staffs were.
As in this was before Melissa?
This was before Melissa. This was on October 8th that we had the meeting. The intention that was being proposed was to close the grand and operate the luxury. Now the grand is where you would have all the unionized staff. The intention was to close the grand for 1 year. We would have indicated our resistance to having any kind of, and this was proposed for refurbishing. Now, I would agree that refurbishing and renovation activities are integral part of any hotel operation. You know, these are projects designed to improve and enhance the competitiveness and the looks of the hotel. But we had a concern in terms of making the workers' positions redundant. Now, after that meeting, we treated that meeting as a meeting for notification to us. After that meeting, the second meeting was post-Melissa. Now, at that meeting, the indication was to close as a result of the devastation. The intention was to close both the grand and the luxury property for 1 year. Again, to make the positions redundant. We again raised concerns and we appealed to the management that rather than make positions redundant, we could talk through this, because the intention therefore was to ensure that workers are not terminated, they do not form part of the unemployment line, and there is a security of tenure in the very least, whilst we would have had the downturn in operations. It would not have been the first time that we would have gone through a situation where you start with a layoff, you resume partial operation whilst things are taking place. We did that through the pandemic, and this was one hotel that had protected its employees, not to separate them by way of redundancies. And so we would have made a further appeal on the meeting of November, I believe it was November 13th. By November 14th, we would have received a letter from the attorneys of the hotel indicating their still intention to terminate the services of the employees by way of redundancy, but further indicating to us that rather than close the property for 1 year, now remember, one property was being closed for 1 year in the first instance, pre-Melissa. Post-Melissa, both properties were being closed now for 1 year, and the day after, both properties would now be closed indefinitely. Why are we at the Ministry of Labour? The fact that the following day, without giving us the opportunity to respond to your now new turn of events of an indefinite closure, a communication was sent to all workers that there was the intention to make every position redundant and the uncertainty of an indefinite closure. And so we believe strongly that the matter should have been reported to the Ministry of Labour. You know, just to say that the preservation of jobs is essentially a priority of the union. And in the aftermath of Melissa, Jamaica will be facing what I would consider unprecedented challenges in sustaining employment, especially in the tourism industry. We would have found that many other properties outside of this one would have indicated their interest to secure employment of their employees. None of them had indicated proposed redundancies. And You know, in this situation, redundancy should be a last resort, not a convenience. Not a convenience because you have this apparent situation of a construction taking place or refurbishing taking place, which we view only as a temporary stay on operations.
So, Senator, what was the solution proposed by the ministry coming out of that meeting?
Well, what the ministry was seeking to do was merely to have both parties coming to some agreement. We would have made certain proposals in terms of furloughing the employees, giving the employees some sort of a fund to carry them through the passage of operations. But essentially,